We start tonight with a major weather event, as Roland said. Hurricane Harvey, now a Category 3 storm, is set to strike the Texas Gulf Coast in just a matter of hours. This is a live look at the coast. Feet of rain and damaging winds are expected across the area. People in Corpus Christi, Galveston, and other coastal areas are being told to leave or stay at their own risk. And we have team coverage of the storm this afternoon. Let's start with our chief meteorologist, Roland Stedham, who has years of experience forecasting hurricanes.
13 years in Miami, Natalie, has taught me a couple of things. Number one, you're never sure of exactly where a hurricane is going to go until it gets within miles of the coastline. Now we have a pretty good idea that the eye of this hurricane is headed right toward Corpus Christi, and the worst case scenario has taken place, as I mentioned before. It was a Category 2 storm throughout much of the day. It has just been upgraded to a Category 3 major hurricane. That now classifies it within the top 20% of hurricanes. Only 20% of storms will become a major storm, but they do 80% of the damage because of the intensity of the wind and the rain. There's the eye of the storm right there. There is Corpus Christi, and you can see that now the outer rain bands associated with the actual eye wall are just now starting to lash the Corpus Christi coastline. As the eye passes over, the storm surge is going to be piling up on those barrier islands, generating a 6 to 12 foot storm surge. And on the satellite imagery, you can certainly see the very well defined eye wall with rain bands stretching all the way back to the Florida Panhandle. Sustained winds 125 miles per hour, moving northwest at 10 miles per hour. Now is a Category 3 storm. There you can see the actual wind field of the hurricane force winds versus the yellow, which indicates the tropical storm force winds. As it comes onshore, it's expected to remain as a at least Category 1 storm throughout much of the day tomorrow. There are also other concerns that this system is going to be stalling right over the central coastline of Texas in the days to come. I'll have much more on that. Let's toss it out to Weizhu Zhang, who has the latest on what Harvey is up to.
A violent surf is crashing into the Texas Gulf Coast as Hurricane Harvey whips closer to landfall. Forecasters expect it to bring at least 20 inches of rain, in some areas much more, enough to turn towns into islands for days.
Brace yourself, prepare for the worst, and be ready to try and get out of town as quick as you can.
Chris Rickers isn't leaving.
I decided to stay to protect my house.
Are you worried about your decision to stay?
A little bit. I'm mainly worried about my kids.
Governor Greg Abbott is pushing everyone to head inland.
You have the power and the ability right now to be able to avoid being stuck into a search and rescue situation if you make the decision to get out of harm's way before it is too late.
Meteorologists expect the storm to be a Category 3 hurricane as it makes land. That would mean winds topping 115 miles per hour.
7 coastal counties from here in Corpus Christi to Galveston Island have ordered mandatory evacuations. Officials say they cannot guarantee rescues for people who stay behind.
This retirement home loaded residents for the ride to Austin.
I would have preferred to hunker down at home, but my concerns are for the people of Corpus Christi and our city.
The National Weather Service says the winds could be life-threatening, but that the greatest threat is from potentially catastrophic flooding. Weizhu Zhang, CBS News, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Anytime we have a storm of this intensity, of this size, that it hits a very densely populated area, our own meteorologist Nate Larson knows that it can have widespread impacts that could affect us here in the Gem State. Nate?
Yeah, we're talking about flights. I mean, people flying to and from those major airports, or at least connecting flights in those airports. And most major airlines are waiving change fees to flights going to South Texas. Changing your airline ticket can cost as much as $200 with some folks. But storm policies vary from airline to airline, so make sure you check if you're flying to the area in the next few days. So right now at the Boise Airport, we're not seeing a whole lot of delays related to flights going towards the South Texas area, although we are seeing some delays in the area. Just make sure, again, if you are planning to fly somewhere in that direction, or if you have a connecting flight in one of those major airports, you make sure and give them a call to find out what's going to happen. You can check out the status of your flight on the Boise Flight Tracker. You can find it on our website, idahonews.com. Just click on the news links. The last flight from Corpus Christi to Dallas landed at 9:30 this morning. Airports in South Texas are not closed, but very few, if any, flights are expected to land there in the next few days. Have you ever wondered what it's like to fly in a hurricane? Here you go. Some brave hurricane hunters fly into the storm and took this video saying there was turbulence, and or saying that if you were expecting turbulence, that would be an understatement for sure. So I'll be back throughout the newscast with live analysis of conditions in South Texas. I'm in the Satellite Center. Nate Larson, KBOI 2 News.
Nate, thank you. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, is gearing up to respond.
Texans are preparing for the worst, filling up sandbags, boarding up windows as Hurricane Harvey intensifies, barreling up the Gulf of Mexico towards Texas. Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, is working closely with state and local officials. Is the government ready?
I believe that we're as ready as we can be. Our main focus right now is life safety.
All 7 Texas coastal counties ordered mandatory evacuations. The National Hurricane Center called Harvey life-threatening.
We're expecting surge flooding along the coast. We're expecting high winds, debris flying, potential tornadoes spinning out, and copious amounts of rain.
FEMA Acting Deputy Administrator Dave Grant says the agency is expecting anywhere from 10 to over 40 inches of rain.
We have pre-positioned assets across the state, including Louisiana, that would include food, water, blankets, cots, diapers, just about anything folks would need.
Grant says FEMA's biggest challenge is getting residents to heed the warning of local officials.
It could be a very significant storm that is going to be very dangerous for folks. This isn't just a 1 or 2 day event. This will be a multi-day event, probably over the next 3 to 5 days. It will be very serious, and people need to take it seriously.
FEMA warns if residents do not evacuate, they need to shelter in place in the highest ground possible and be prepared for several days without power. In Washington, I'm Michelle Macaluso.
So let's go to our national question of the day. How prepared do you think the federal government is to handle Hurricane Harvey? It's our national question of the day. Make sure to head to idahonews.com to vote. You can find the poll under the news tab. It's in the top left corner. We'll read the results later on in the newscast. Roland and Nate will give us many more updates on Hurricane Harvey throughout this newscast. We'll also be having a live report from the shore coming up.